That's what happened to this servant, wasn't it? He bought into a lie. He thought his master was cruel. He thought his master was unjust. He allowed his fear to get the best of him. And thus, when he was given an opportunity to please the master, he didn't even try. Deception has a way, doesn't it, of really limiting what God can do in our life. How about you guys? You ever bought into a lie? You ever had a lie that held you back? There's a story, a good illustration that talks about deception that I heard once. It's a story of how they train elephants in India. In this story, it said that the way they train elephants in India, by the time they're fully trained, they can take an elephant, a huge, fully grown elephant, and tie a twine around its leg, its right leg, and they can take that twine, then they can take a small branch on a tree, and they can wrap that twine around the small branch. They can tie that twine onto the branch, and then the trainer can say, all right, well, I'm done for the day. I'm going to go home, go eat, and go to bed. When that trainer gets out there the next morning, then he'll come out there, and there's that elephant standing there with just this little bitty twine around his leg, and he's got this twine tied around to the branch. Now, when you hear that story, what's your first thought? How in the world does that happen? Here is an elephant that's massive and huge. You know, they use these elephants in India to carry boulders, to knock out trees. They're like a living bulldozer. And yet, this elephant has this little bitty twine around this little bitty twig, this little tree, this tree branch, and it just stays there all night. You know, this elephant should just say, okay, the trainer's gone, I'm going, I'm heading out, I'm taking off. And yet he doesn't. So how does he do it? How does the trainer do this to the elephant? What the trainer does is he takes the little elephant. When the elephant's born, it's just a little bitty baby. And it takes the baby, and they take it away, and they put this huge metal chain around the elephant's right leg. And then they take that chain, and then they wrap it around this huge tree trunk. And so when that little baby elephant tries to move, it can't go anywhere. It's trapped. And so what they slowly do is they take that elephant, and they take the chain, and they gradually make it smaller and smaller. It's a smaller chain, smaller tree. And eventually, over time, they teach the elephant that the elephant starts to believe that if I've got something tied around my right leg, then I can't get away. And so by the time it's a big, huge, strapping elephant, it thinks that just because I've got this little twine around my leg, I'm trapped. You see, the elephant was taught at a very young age a lie, a deception. It's bought into this deception, and this deception dominates its life. The elephant totally just thinks, this is all that I can do. How about you guys? Got any twines in your life? Any of y'all right now in your life buying into a deception? Is there something around your right leg? Something that you buy into that's a total lie? Something that's holding you back? Students, have you bought into the lie of our culture? Culture says that youth are irresponsible, doesn't it? Culture says that students have to be from the ages about 13 to 21, be young, have fun, don't do anything with your life. You don't start doing stuff with your life until you get to be at least 22. Nowadays, you got to be about 33 before you do something with your life. That's not true. That is a lie that Satan has put around your right leg. Why was David Farragut and George Washington great? Because they chose at an early age to use what God had given them. You don't have to be 13 and be irresponsible. You know, it wasn't up until about 100 years ago there wasn't even something called a teenager. You were at the age 13. In Jewish culture, at 13, If you were a guy, you were a man. You went from childhood to work. The fact is, you guys can do great things. You can be a great force in this church. Years ago, it was the work, and this, I think, of Matt Flanagan and the youth that really set the church on fire several years ago, when I was a kid. And you know what? God can take this same youth group and take this youth group and just ignite a fire. Don't let Satan throw you lies. You all are capable of great things, and I believe in each and every one of you. Y'all got a great youth minister. Use the opportunity you've been given. So how does this story end? It's kind of sad, really. The master looks at the third servant. He sees his money. He sees it all. He tries to give it to him, and the master says, I don't want any of this. I gave you a chance. I gave you an opportunity, and you didn't want to do anything with it. So the master takes his money and he gives it to the man who had made 10 bags of gold. And the point is, those who use what they are given well will be given more. But those who waste what they're given will have it taken away. Which brings us back to our question, our closing question and our opening question today is the same, and that is, are you making the most out of the life that God has given you? Are you making the most? Are you working hard? Are you getting up every day and investing what God has given you and doing something with it for the kingdom of God? Or are you like the third servant? Are you seeing an opportunity, been given an opportunity, but instead you're getting all scared and you've bought into a lie and you've said, I can't do anything for God. I can't. I'm just always going to be this way. I went out and I did this a few years ago, this sin, and God's not going to be able to use me. If God didn't use sinners, he wouldn't be using anybody. The fact is, God can use you. I don't want you guys to turn out like the third servant. I don't want there to be that day when God looks at you and says, I've tried, I've given, and I've given. But you know what? You've ignored me. So I'm going to take what I've given you, and I'm going to give it to this guy over here who's actually going to do something with it. I bet there's somebody that can testify here that's probably went through a time in their life like that. Any of y'all ever had a time where God took away what he'd given you and given it to somebody else? But here's the good news, and it's the most incredible news ever, and that is that we've been given a chance. All of us have been given an opportunity. Whether you're 5 or 13 or 40 or 78, it's not too late to say, I'm going to start using what God has given me. It's not too late as Christians to remember that Jesus loves us. Jesus went to the cross for us so that all of us could have a chance to do something with our life. We've all got a chance. So what are you going to do? Are you going to make something of your life? Or are you going to throw it away? The choice is yours.